So this is pretty much the first time that I've looked up any reviews for a game that I'm covering before I've actually covered it. And there's a good reason for this. You see, one of my friends was asking me, what games are you working on? And I gave him a list, with Grapple Dogs being the one that I was working on currently. And he's like, oh, well, that's an interesting game. I've heard a lot of people say that it's mediocre, that it's shovelware, and so that got me looking. Now, we'll talk about what some of the people have said, including some critics about Grapple Dogs, but I will also tell you what I think about Grapple Dogs. But before we get into that, please hit that like and subscribe button. Help us get to that 2,000 mark before 2025. That would be amazing. So anyway, Grapple Dogs is a sequel, with the first one being quite the indie darling. A lot of people really liked it and called it super addictive. There's a really fun platformer with a really good idea. You have a grappling hook, you can punch, you're a dog. Hey, Grapple Dog, how can you not love that? And obviously the main character, your main pup, is a little dog by the name of Pablo, and he is awesome. He's got the attitude of someone you don't want to mess with, but he's also adorable. So the only way to make things better would be to add another dog, of course, and that's what they did in Grapple Dogs Cosmic Canine. Now in this one though, you get to play as Pablo and also a dog by the name of Luna. And personally, I think Luna added quite a bit to this game. Not to mention the fact that they seem to really just expand what they were doing with Grapple Dogs, really building upon what they had already established with the first one, adding a few more mechanics, maybe doing a few things that they didn't need to and no one asked for, but that's besides the point. It really is, because when it comes down to a lot of the mechanics of the gameplay, it's essentially the same thing, but with a little bit tighter focus on some of your abilities as well as level design. Now in this game, you are essentially trying to save the world. Well, you're trying to save many worlds as you jump across different dimensions, hopping into new worlds to save another world from the big bad guy. Now, the thing that's cool about this though, is that you have this over-the-top kind of view where you sail. You're sailing the cosmoses, and that's pretty cool. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of some parts of Sea of Stars when you were kind of navigating the area towards the end of the game. And while this looks really cool, and I do like that mechanic of it almost being like open world, it's really not. The levels almost get presented to you almost like Mario 3, where yeah, there's this big map or these areas that you can go to, but you can't really, unless the game allows it, and once you beat the previous level, then you can move on to the next one, which, to be clear, does not bother me at all. In fact, that's sort of what I expect with this type of game. The only downside is there's not many opportunities for side quests. You can go back and revisit worlds that you've been to before, and that's basically how you do pick up most of your side quests. It's just, it seems a little suffocating at times, and yet it's kind of fine. Just because ultimately the story itself isn't something that really pulls you in. It's okay. It does a decent job of being a story, but ultimately it's more about the gameplay you're worried about. So if I'm being honest, your want to explore, to know more about these worlds or find secrets is not really there. Not as much as what it could be, I should say. And I would say arguably the story and the artwork are the two things about the game that are the most divisive. Or I would say, at least with the story, it's not even devices, it's just a weak point of it. Now, to the artwork, and the reason I say this is because I saw so many people comment on this game that it looked like shovelware, or it looked cheap, and I really couldn't figure out what they were talking about until I kind of took a step back and understood that really it is the art design. It's this having these PNG type characters outlined in white. Once I sort of noticed that, and I noticed that the characters always look like that, even through cutscenes and things of that nature, it does feel a little lacking or a little cheap, honestly. I want to be clear, I didn't notice that until I saw the complaint, and ultimately, I don't even have a big problem with it. I just see where people are coming from, and it may not be everyone's cup of tea for that art style. But you can kind of look past it, honestly, because it has nothing to do with gameplay, and many of the assets actually do look good. It's just that almost cutout style that it has. And again, I think some people are going to like that, some people are going to hate that, but when you look at the characters, you look at the enemies, even some of the big bad guys, they look good. It looks cool. It's just, it looks almost like it was done in old school South Park style. And honestly, I don't mind it, but I think that's the criticism, or at least that's where people play it or they see it and they immediately go, oh, that looks like shovelware. That looks cheap. And it's not, because the actual gameplay and the mechanics are phenomenal. And it's got that platforming that is really welcoming. It's fun, engaging, but never too difficult. It will never set you in a place where you just want to break your controller. Most of that really does allow for you to be able to explore more and have that freedom. And I think a lot of that has to do with the grappling hooks themselves and the fact that Pablo can actually turn himself into a ball of energy and just fly around. It's pretty cool. He gets that electricity about him, and there's certain areas that he can fly through, essentially. It's really fun, and it's one of those games, because of those things, that moves really fast. You almost don't think that you're able to do that, like when you watch a trailer or other people play it, but it is incredibly welcoming with those mechanics. Not to mention Luna's gun. That really also makes the game at least feel a lot faster, especially in her levels. Another bright spot for me was actually the music. I actually really enjoyed the soundtrack. It was kind of jazzy, upbeat, and it just worked with the game, because the entire game, yes, while you're trying to save multiple worlds, is also just kind of fun. It has that fun element about it. I mean, for the love of God, you're using a grappling hook as a dog. So, yeah, we're not talking about a realistic, hardcore type Elden Ring style game. But I will say that I think there's going to be a number of people, especially retro players and platformer fans, that are really going to like this game. It has, again, that 2D style, which I think a lot of people really enjoy. And you get quite a bit of content, especially for the price, where this is a game that's under $20. Right now it's on sale for $14, but I think the regular price is $17.99, and it took me quite a while to actually get through it. It wasn't too much, and there is a lot of room for other things you can do, like collectibles and things of that nature, which I didn't really do. But just to get it, run the campaign, if you will, maybe do a little bit of extra stuff, it's gonna hold you for quite a while, which I really appreciated. Now, that was the other thing that I noticed when I was looking at reviews, though, was the just duality of, yeah, some of the users were saying it looks like shovelware, it's mid, it's blah, blah, blah. And then people like Nintendo Life gave this game a 9 out of 10, which I was really shocked by. Because, yes, I do think it's a good game. I think it's fun. It's a great indie. It's a fantastic sequel to a series that I think is going to be a series that many people really enjoy, especially the indie crowd. And the fact that I think this game itself is a real step forward for the series in general. And I do think that this is going to be a series. I think we're going to see a lot more Grapple Dogs games. At least I hope we do, because they seem to keep building upon what was good and really adding a little bit here or there just to round out the edges, if you will, and maybe add a little bit more content. But I'm kind of excited what this team can do with this game and even more money, because I do think that the team that built this really loves their IP. So to see them with even more opportunity to create a bigger world and more content, not to say that this game itself isn't already a fantastic game, and in fact, like I said, if it's Grapple Dogs or Grapple Dogs 2, whatever, I'm choosing Grapple Dogs 2. I just found it to be far more entertaining and more engaging than the first one. I don't know, I'm curious what your thoughts are. If this is a series you played before, if you're thinking about picking this one up, if this is the one you think you're going to jump in on, or maybe you just don't like these games and there's other games you're playing. Anything and everything, that comment section below is much appreciated. I love each and every one of you guys. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.